Hello there, Vic Benedict here. We're playing Ninja Gaiden 2 on the Series X, and this is my Master Ninja Difficulty Gaiden walkthrough. We're currently on Chapter 12 of 14. It is entitled Quickening Devastation. So, before I talk about this, I do need to mention that I haven't gone back to this chapter that I completed around about 13 days ago. So, I'm going to try to remember with as best recall as possible what went on in this chapter, but bear in mind if I do fall behind like in my thought processes, just bear that in mind and take some pity on good old Buck Benedict. But anyway, I decided to now if you don't want to do all the fights, what I would recommend highly is to just run past all of these enemies. Run past the save, do not save it at the save statue, and just from the very beginning of the level, just run straight to the armadillo fight and start fighting it. You can purchase Miramasa stuff if you want to, and you probably need to, but just once you're done purchasing things from Miramasa, then just go right to the first pair of bosses. Without saving it. And the thing is, you get a checkpoint once you get to those armadillo, and then after that you'll probably need health, right? So then you can go back to the save point, that dragon statue, and completely heal yourself after the fight, because that's a smart way to do it. Now if you do want to do all the fights like I'm doing, you can still do the same method if you don't get hit too much, and then just run right to the armadillos. But the armadillos themselves, you'll want to have the incendiaries for them as much as possible, because do you remember in Chapter 7, at its end, we fought an armadillo, and I no damaged him? Because it was just one armadillo, and it's easy to stun lock him. But on this fight coming up, just make sure that you have your incendiaries maxed out. And it really shouldn't come to much more than needing that with a full health bar. Because again, after the fight, if you haven't used the save statue right before the armadillos, right after that fight, go back and heal at the save statue, save your game, and then proceed forward into the rest of the game. If you don't want to fuss with these enemies, I would highly understand that. Because these enemies can be really bitchy, and the thing is, though, it's not that easy to run past them with all of these around. Plus, the armadillos shooting their shit at you as you're running towards them, so it can be done. So if you're getting hit too much, what I would recommend is just restart the chapter until you can get to the end without getting hit or hit too much. Or even if you get hit, use an herb or something cheap, because at this point we've got like almost 100,000 or whatever, your maximum amount of money is. Not 100,000, it's 100 million, isn't it? I'm not good with numbers, as you can tell, but what is it, like a million? Yeah, you can get up to a million essence. So I think you'll be all right. You know what I mean? I think we're all going to be all right since we have so much money. And again, all the money that I have, I'm probably going to show here. I've got nearly, what is that, 1 million essence? But I want to stress to you guys, none of that money was accumulated by doing excessive amount of fights and needing to manipulate spawns to grind for money or anything like that. This is just playing well, getting all the high items, all those talisman of rebirths over and over again. It adds up fast, and you do not need to grind for money on this game. You don't. You simply don't have to. So if you think you do, and it's maybe preventing you from wanting to do this game, because Chapter 1 is brutal, as well as Chapter 2. But just bear in mind, watch my first video, because I go through the techniques of, and they're wrong techniques as far as the combo level. It only needs to go to 50, and I think I was going to 100 a couple times. But see how you're getting shot at over here? just run past. Don't pick up that item because you're going to have full items if you start this chapter for fresh. Keep the see the statue. Do not activate it because you're going to get a checkpoint right up here. And keep the void on probably. And just start throwing the ISs right at the first armadillo that you get. When things get a little messy and they either start rolling around or going into their rage mode here, or staggering you with their projectiles, you know, compensate for that as best you can, but realize that these guys can be staggered perpetually. But the thing is, when there's two of them, it's harder to do that. But if you can get on that first guy and be unremitting about your throws, do not let up. He shouldn't have much of a chance to do any hijinks. And then when it's just one of them left, you know, this could be done probably without taking any damage, unless he, you know, starts doing a bunch of nonsense. But I don't think he has any chance to do any nonsense, although I did take a hit there. But damn, look at that damage. Jeez. Wow. And again, just block every time you OT them, because they are going to explode. And that's that. Okay? You're low on health, but no big deal. You can go back down over here and go to the save statue, get a full heal, and then go back to Miramassa's. Because this is a strange chapter where the only Miramassa is over here at the very beginning of the level, and then way later in the chapter after you fight Zidonius. Sorry. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is not to get hit, so I can open this and get my 7,000. If it's not 7,000, it's a low herb, so that'll give me 5,000. But if you do take any damage and open that chest that I just opened, it's going to give you blues. So try to come down here as many times as you can to maximize on money. And that's what we've been doing the entire game, folks. We've been manipulating chests the entire game. And it's a lot more satisfying to manipulate chests than to have to go through the tedium of grinding for money on certain parts that let you. Because you might like that. And I like it when there's nothing else that you can do to get money. But I've shown you that there are many things that you can do to maximize on your money and never have a problem about worrying for any purchases you make on this entire campaign that you do. Okay, so if you've gone through the walkthrough and you've noticed all the times that I've mentioned that, like knowing that there's daggers, or not daggers. I sometimes call them daggers, and I apologize. But I mean, knowing that there are shurikens there, IS shurikens, don't buy them excessively after the fight that you just did, because there's some right over there. That saves you money. That saves you what, 3,000 or so, or 30,000. I don't know. I think they're 3,000 each, aren't they? Again, I'm not good with money. Anyway, slide down the hill. And now you're going to be dealing with, I believe we have some dogs over here. And these dogs are the aggressive ones. And they spawn down the valley over here in between these mountains. And probably the best thing to do on them, honestly, is to use Inferno in conjunction with the on-landing 360Y attack with the level 3 scythe. If you don't have it to level 3, don't worry about it. Just make sure you get it up. By this time, you should have the level 3. You should have all your weapons maxed out. So I shouldn't even really say that. We do have a Zidonius fight coming up, and I deplore the arena in which you fight him rather than him himself, because it's the same boss. It's just that, well, it's in a shitty environment, and he does make compensations for being in that shitty environment by flying all over the fucking place and summoning lackeys. But the thing is, we can try to take him down as much as possible with our rotating Y scythe attacks, although Zidonius can get out of those attacks because what happens is you do a 360 Y. I'm not talking about an on landing. I'm just talking about from a standing position rotating the scythe 360. And if you connect with him, he gets stunned most of the time. If he doesn't get stunned the first time, do it quickly again, and he's likely to get stunned. But the problem is, and watch out for these guys. These guys are, normal enemies, but in a moment you'll see one that's not normal. You've got red dragons down here that I don't think should be in the main campaign. I don't mind that they're in the Test of Valor, but for them to be in the main campaign, they can't be OT'd, which is really kind of lame. Their heads can be cut off, but that's not an OT. That's when their head falls off, it means you've killed them. So you don't kill them with OTs, you kill them with normal hits. And that goes for a lot of enemies in this game that really have no business in this game, like dogs, the bots, the robots you fight. I'm not talking about the riot guards, because those ones can be delimbed. I'm talking about any enemy that cannot be delimbed. Really has no business in this game, I don't think, because the whole cutting off of arms and OTing is a staple in this game, and it's the essence of the game, you might say, for lack of a better word. And it is, it's the foundation of the game. And to have some enemies that you cannot dismember seems like they either didn't have enough time to implement all of those other enemies in the same vein as other enemies that, for the most part, the majority of the other enemies, you OT them and you kill them. That's how it works. Like with this enemy, it's absolutely perfect. But you've got these red dragons, and there's really no telling, what's going to go on with these. Although you can face away from them when you're charging your on-landing 360Y with the scythe. Because if you face away from them, then he won't cut into the ground with the final scythe hit away from them. So if you're facing away from them initially, he'll double back and slam that last cut into the ground and on their body. So that's what you want to be doing. Face away from them and do it. Watch this. This should work if he pathfinds properly. See how my hit landed on him? That's what you want. Again, face away from him, and we cut his head off. That's how you need to do it. And then for Zidonius, I don't know. We'll have some time to talk in a little more relaxed manner after Zidonius. Maybe there are some topics I could talk about other than just what's going on the screen, because I know some people do enjoy, hearing about me personally other than exactly what's going on the screen. I think the majority of the people that watch my videos like to hear just, instant playbys constantly of what's going on the screen. But I think there is a smaller amount of people that are interested in me as a person and might really enjoy hearing, any tidbits of my life or my preferences, outside of gaming that, might give them a more complete image of who I am outside of gaming. I will say this: I have a very large Blu-ray collection, but they're all old films. In fact, I've got like 50 Blu-rays down below, over to the right where I'm sitting, on a bookcase, and only one of those films is in color, and that film is Chinatown, because that movie is sublime and I love it. But the other, however many, God knows, Blu-rays there are, they're all in black and white. I prefer black and white, and I prefer film noir to all the other genres. And I'm talking about classic film noir. Chinatown is film noir, but it's neo-noir. But I do like the classic period of film noir from the 40s. In fact, the 40s are my favorite period of film noir to watch. It's the classic period in my estimation. It varies from person to person, like these categories of what's classic, what's more modern. To me, modern is like from the 60s forward. I usually don't watch movies that are that modern. And I know modern is highly subjective, and you might think modern is ancient. Based on the films I watch, modern, I do draw the line at like 1960. Although there are a couple 60s noirs that I've watched. But I do really appreciate the film noirs from the 40s because they're just fantastic. Like late 40s, mid to late 40s, even early 40s, like The Maltese Falcon with Mary Astor and Bogart. In fact, I just watched a film that was actually, I do have two color films. I have a film called Desert Fury that came out in 1949. Pardon me. I'm not going to edit that out because I apologized. And, but yeah, I watched Desert Fury. It was in Technicolor, but it was made in 1949. And other movies made in 1949, they couldn't afford to have it in Technicolor. But I watched Desert Fury, and it was just a throwback, I think, to an older movie called, what is that damn movie called? I Want to Live or something? Is it called I Want to Live? Or I'm trying to think what the movie's called. But it has a lot of crossovers from an earlier movie with Wendell Corey. No, sorry, it was called I Walk Alone. And it had other, that movie Desert Fury had, who am I thinking? Did I say Elizabeth Scott? It had John Hodiak, Burt Lancaster, Wendell Corey. I think I mentioned Wendell Corey. But it also had Mary Astor, who wasn't in I Walk Alone, but who was in a aforementioned movie that I mentioned called, what was it? Maltese Falcon from 41. But now we are going to go face Fish and then Zidonius. So I think I used the Lunar over here, but to be honest, I knew how to deal with Fish in Black, Ninja Gaiden Black. But how to deal with Fish here and not get... And I mean, when I say I knew how to deal with him in Black, I knew how to deal with him without getting bit. But in this game, I really don't, so I'm sorry about that. The Lunar seems to work fairly well. If you got any other strategies, maybe write them in the comments and we could ascertain which ones are better. But here's the fight coming up right over here. And I don't think we ever have any of the... Red Godges coming into this fight. So when he drops down, I cast the Wind Blades because he's really hard to dodge at that point. I might use a Talisman over here, I'm not sure. But do you see the problem here? He falls away from you really easily. He gets pushed back really easily. So while you're doing this, yeah, I used the Talisman. Too bad. But you get space from him too easily, and then when you do your next scythe attack to stun him, he's out of your range, and then he goes ballistic. There's no telling what he's going to do. Like now, he's unaccounted for, so I'm going to jump back and then keep going with this strategy, which is pretty decent. It's just that sometimes you don't stagger in with the first hit, and you need to have another one connect. And if the one that you're trying to do after the one that misses, he's out of range for, then you're in for some big hurt. So sorry about that, but this does work. And okay, so this was a point at which on the Godfather Dictator's no damage run, he discovered how to do the following. How to get past this section without getting damaged. So the technique that you're going to see me do is just lifted right off of his video. And don't get me wrong when I say lifted. Godfather is one of my oldest and dearest friends on YouTube. Chris, the Seraphim 17, he mentioned the Godfather to me, and I struck up a friendship through Chris. But Chris has since developed a some kind of a mental problem to watching my videos where he can't enjoy them because I behaved inappropriately when I was called out for cheating, even though I didn't cheat, but my behavior afterwards and my interactions and experiences with the people that were saying that I cheated were beneath me, and my manners were beneath me. Okay, so I messed up there, but what we need to do is switch to the dragon sword, right? Jump, use the shurikens to shuriken cancel there, and then do a dash, and then as you're running over here, you won't take any damage. So review that in slow motion if you need to, but basically what you do is you do a forward running jump, throw shurikens, and then quickly do the flying swallow. And then when you land, you'll be in the lava, but you won't take damage. And surprisingly, as you run on top of the lava to the cave area where the save statue is, you don't take any damage either. So it was a point of contention on his walkthrough because there was another player who did most of this game no damage, but he didn't do that part that was just demonstrated by the Godfather Dictator, in which I emulated in my base way, I guess you could say. Yeah, he didn't do that part, and it wasn't a complete no damage run by this particular player, who is a very good player. He just took damage, and you can't call a no damage guide such if you take damage. I know it's pedantic, but you have to realize that there's other players who might want to try the same thing in the future, and if you're calling something no damage, and it's like the Bible that everybody's following, it's going to be a tainted Bible in some ways because you took damage. And I know it might just be damage in one area, but it's still damage. For instance, I did a God of War 3 endurance run. That endurance fight right before you do the Hades Cerberus Breeder boss fight? There's an endurance fight in a room where you're with Pandora, and there's God knows how many enemies. And there's one point, I did it no damage. I've done it no damage twice, but when I redid my walkthrough, I redid that fight again, no damage. And it's on my channel, you can see it. But I was, at one point I used a projectile to parry back a siren projectile. So I violated a rule. And I also violated a rule later in the video where I think I took one or two punches at a shield enemy that I just robbed of his shield, and then I hit him a couple times with the cestus. And yes, those are violations of the rule, but you have to realize, folks, that a fight that I spent like 35 minutes on, it's really kind of pointless to stop a fight when you see something like that, because sometimes you don't see that kind of thing when you're playing and you're amidst the stress level of doing something like that. You see it afterwards, or when somebody points it out to you. Also, when these guys explode, you do not have to guard. Marionettes are over here. They're in the next chapter too. I think the Godfather mentioned something like this when he was doing this part. He thought it would be a great introduction for the wolves to be here, and I thought that was an ingenious comment on his part because it would make complete sense. This is the woods. Wolves hang out in woods, as far as I know. And I think it would be a great introduction to the wolves, except for the fact that lichens were a part of an earlier chapter, so it's a hard call. It really is. But I thought it would be nice to have, You know. Oh, this was done no damage too. So you want to use the windmill shuriken on these enemies over here. Okay, when you um, just can't get the windmill shuriken to work, it is safer to use arrow UTs on these enemies. But the thing you never want to do on these enemies, and I think I've mentioned it, when you're fighting these enemies, do not ever dash jump away, because they will do a vertical spin at you. I'm not sure what it's called, some kind of vortex spin or something. I don't know. But they tend to like to cut you down out of the air like that. Similar to how Genshin likes to do that on the fights with him. He doesn't like you in the air. Remember in Chapter 7 I said this guy's got a big problem about folks when they're in an airplane. He doesn't like people flying. You know, nobody that's in the air is he comfortable with. So I kind of took offense to that. You know, if I'm in a fucking airplane, you don't take offense to that. But you know, here we're not on an airplane, but we're still in the air, trying to get away from things like this in Genshin. So just try your best to use your utmost strength here to not dash jump away, because in most cases you'll get cut down. If they're out of range, they probably won't get cut down. And what you can do when you no longer see any of these enemies around, you can use the homing jump, which is X plus A, as I'm doing now, to kind of find enemies, because this homing jump will take you right to any enemies that may be left. And I realize we're not supposed to be jumping, but these enemies, they're so far away that the homing jump needs to take us over there to them. And I forget how I fight Wolf. Because he does have lackeys, and it's really unfortunate. He's got minotaurs, which is sad, because there's a lot of them. They have a lot of health, and before you can even start fighting Wolf without anybody else trying to hit you, it could take quite a while. So I'm not sure again what I do on Wolf. I probably like to use the XXY with the lunar and charge attacks. The thing is, while you are killing the minotaurs, I'm sorry, they're called centaurs. I don't know why I called them minotaurs. I must have had something on my mind there, but while you are firing off Infernos, and I would recommend using Infernos on the Centaurs because they do have a lot of health, but if you do use Inferno, it does kill them in one shot, which is a blessing. So you'll want to use Inferno, and what's probably going to happen is you're probably going to target a bunch of Centaurs, and you might even target Wolf, and some of those Infernos are going to take some health off Wolf. So once you do take care of all the Centaurs and it's just you and Wolf, there's a pretty good chance that Wolf's health bar will be down, a fourth of the way at the very least. So that should give you some confidence that, when you do start to fight Wolf, you don't need to take off all of his health, because he's going to have some, in an ideal situation, maybe you could take off a third of his health with Inferno Blasts. Because he does take to it. He takes to it. Not every time, but he does take to it. And when they're smoking like this, you can't execute them. So this is an OTable enemy. But many times they just they block the windmill shuriken, so it's kind of frustrating. When they do that spin attack over to you and they land right away, that's a really good time to use the windmill shuriken, because it cuts them in half nearly every time. Okay, we've got more over here. All these enemies are optional, by the way. If you want to run past all these and just get to Wolf, that's your prerogative. So, I also believe I use another Talisman of Rebirth on Wolf. because I've only used one health upgrade, and I have very low health, because I only have the base health plus one small upgrade of one use of a life of the gods, or sorry, life of the thousand gods. And that's why I have so many in reserve. I got 7 in reserve, 7 of those lives of the thousand gods, plus the life of the gods. So I've got like 9, like 9 heals beyond what I can carry in my inventory, plus like a million essence. So like I said earlier, I think we're gonna be okay. I don't think we need to doubt any purchases that are coming up. I think we can relax if we need to use a Talisman of Rebirth on both bosses here, because we've got plenty of money, and a better player would not need to use a Talisman of Rebirth or what have you. But hell, I'm not the Godfather Dictator. He's much better at this game than I. And the funny thing is, he's only beat this game one time. I've beat this game dozens of times, and he's much better at this game than I am, because he's played black so much more, no damage, and under just insane circumstances, and he's just good at no damage. So on this, the Lunar 360, it's good, but so is the 360Y UT. But they just have a ton of life. That's their problem. And Wolf has got some damage off him, which is nice. And more, see? So you are going to be taking some damage off Wolf as you're doing this. Because as you mix in with centaurs that are near enough to Wolf so that, your UTs might hit him, or your Nympho might hit him, he's going to have his health, in jeopardy by the time you start fighting him. I mean, look. We've got about 1/4 of his health gone, and I wasn't ever focusing on Wolf. I'm just trying to kill the centaurs, with Nympho and OTs. On UTs, but my UTs are invariably hitting centaurs and Wolf. So, and now he's like got a 1/3. Oh, definitely a 1/3. He's a 1/3 dead right now, and you can fight Wolf without killing any centaurs. But that would require you to have to kill Wolf very quickly and not get interrupted too much. But XXY is just fantastic to use on Wolf and things like Zidonius and Genshin. It's just a fantastic move. And maybe I don't have to use the Talisman of Rebirth over here. Nope, I did. But I don't mind, because I know my health is so low. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't, compensate and play better. But Wolf is very difficult. And, if I'm using Talismans of Rebirth, that can make you more comfortable that when you use them, you don't feel bad. You know what I mean? And that's what I wanted to say about this walkthrough. It is for beginners, like maybe beginners / intermediary players. And that's all I ever wanted coming back to this game, because this whole project has been like an elegy, not an elegy, but a retrospective to this game that got an upgrade to 4K and 120 frames. So it's absolutely wonderful, and I hope, as you leave this chapter, you're thinking wonderful things and not things that might cause you to feel bad about yourself later about your performance here. But if you're going through this for the first or second or fifth time, don't worry about it. You'll get better. I'm sure you'll get better than I am at some point if you keep doing it. Because as you keep playing these games, you'll invariably get better. And, maybe we could all be as good as the Godfather Dictator one day. If we pray to God every day. That would be the only way, I guess, because that guy's so skilled. But, yeah, Godfather, I just want to give you a personal message here. Your run was sublime. Absolutely sublime. And in case you don't hear these videos, I'm going to mention every time I post one of these videos and I mention you, I'm gonna give you a heads up right before, so you can check out the video and hear my comments to you, because I find your gameplay to be superb and sublime, and it's interesting watching a inherently Ninja Gaiden Black mentality take on a Ninja Gaiden 2 game that requires. Well, I formerly thought it required a Ninja Gaiden 2 mentality, but this guy came in with a Ninja Gaiden Black mentality, and he he just made all of our preconceived notions fall away about what sort of mentality you even need to bring to a game like this. Because he brought a different mentality and he succeeded as well as anyone can on their first campaign. He did no fucking damage. No damage. I played this game hundreds of times. I've never, well, hundreds of stretch. I played it dozens of times. I've never gotten no damage or close to it, but that's not why I'm here. I'm not interested in doing that. I'm interested in playing a game that I love and helping other people play it at a level that they can be proud of. So, at the length of waxing verbosely here, I will see you in the 13th chapter. So we only have 2 more chapters to go, apparently, before we part company for good and all. And like I said, I will see you in chapter 13. And until I see you over there, please continue to take care.